This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 46.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 46, and today's special guest is Ben Settle. Ben specializes in email marketing, and he teaches others how to use this venue very, very successfully. So enjoy today's episode. Hi, Ben, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Ben, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is that you do for a business?
My main business is I teach, and I do it also, but I teach email marketing primarily through a print newsletter that's like $100 a month newsletter that I mail out to people's doorsteps every month, and it shows them what I do with my own email campaigns so that they can just apply it to whatever they're doing and start making more sales.
Awesome. And that sounds really interesting that you teach email marketing by sending out a newsletter, not by email, but by slow mail, as we call it, actual print mail letter, right?
Yeah. And, when I first thought of this idea, I got a lot of resistance from colleagues who, well, now in hindsight, they'll all say they did not challenge me on this, but I know what they did. They all said basically that, no, that won't work. There's a disconnect. And all that, but really, the way I look at it, quality information, the way it's presented is very important. And direct mail or anything that comes physically in the mail has a lot more impact and perceived value than just digital bytes. Not that there isn't a place for like digitally delivered products, there is, but for what I was trying to do, I wanted to do it my way because this is the way I like to do things. And it turned out to be a pretty big hit, and I haven't had any problems or anything like that. There's always a few people who want things digitally, but I have noticed that over the years when I've made exceptions for people where I would send it to people digitally, they didn't last long because they didn't really value the information because, it's just another email in the inbox they have to deal with. But I love using email to sell with. I don't necessarily like using it to deliver products with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, see, what I think that in your case, it really makes you stand out of the crowd by doing that because, well, everybody switches to digital. And recently I've attended a conference, a local marketing conference in Montreal, right? And one of the presenters, he was the head of marketing for one of the biggest newspapers in the province, which means, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of newspapers delivered to door, and this company is now switching to completely digital. I think in 2016, from January 1st, I think they're switching to only digital, only online, and they're ditching the print because, well, they've decided it doesn't work for them. And many of them will do that. But at the same time, I know so many people who would never go look up the news online, and they prefer that, physical product that they could hold in their hands and read it wherever they are and enjoy with a cup of coffee. So I think that's something that's still not bad. And in your case and in your market especially, I think that's something that really makes you stand out.
Yeah, there's this guy who subscribes to my paid newsletter. I'm not going to name his name or anything. He's a good guy. He's just a little misguided. And he still says, I want it digital. I want all my books digital. I get everything on Kindle and all that. And I want everything digital. I want to be able to read everything on my phone and all this. And I said, I said, hey, man, I'm not going to use his name here. I said, look, I understand that. I really do. But when my newsletter comes every month, like you have a shelf of books and stuff, right? And see, I got a shelf. It's not many books on it. I go, but like, what's on your desk in front of you? Well, your newsletter. So my point is that my newsletter gets top of mind status. It gets, I want people to read it before they read anything else. I want it to be the priority in their existence as far as this stuff goes. And the way to do that is to get it physically in their hands. And I'll give a there's actually some science behind this too, that whenever someone gets an email or a text message or a Skype message or a Facebook message, any kind of digital message, our brains kind of deliver a little dopamine drip, which we like. We get like rewarded, like, oh, I got a message.
Yeah.
It's like exciting, like briefly for like a split second. And we all start getting addicted to that. And pretty much everyone online is, whether they realize it or not. But when you get something in the mail that's valuable to you and that you want, that dopamine effect, from what I understand, is like 100 times more potent. So, if somebody wants just to be another face in the inbox, that's fine. I hope so. I hope they do. I hope all my competition does that, actually. I want to be even if it's a little pain in the butt for people, I don't care. I want them to, at least it's in their face, it's physical, it's intimate. They're taking it with them to their bathroom probably to go take a crap. I don't care. But how much more intimate can you get than that? So, like they're reading me in the bedroom, the bathroom, maybe out on the porch. I mean, I don't know where they're reading it, but I'm just saying it's got a lot more impact. It's far more likely to be saved and valued. That's not to say there aren't people who, really just get off on digital stuff, and that's fine. But most people that I've dealt with, at least the people that I'm going after, they like it and they prefer it. Yeah, sometimes there's some issues with the mail and all that, but you know what I found, that actually just makes people want the information even more. So it all works out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. And Ben, please elaborate on that whole email expert thing. How did you get into email marketing, and like what have you accomplished with that so far?
Well, I got my roots in direct response copywriting, just writing sales letters, long form sales letters, and that sort of thing. In the early 2000s, I was reading this guy's emails every day named Matt Fury, who's I think he's like the king of email. He doesn't do a whole lot of it anymore, but there was a time when he was sending out daily emails, and he really had this lifestyle where he would just write an email every day, and he'd be done. And he'd go off and go get massages or travel China and all this stuff. And I thought, man, I love the idea of that. Just getting up, writing an email a day and being done with everything. And if you structure your business correctly, you can do this. And so for many years, I just kind of let that ponder. Right around 2008 or 9, I started really learning his system. And it changed everything for me. I veer away from a lot of the stuff he teaches and taught and all that. But the foundational stuff has stuck with me this whole time. And now I've just kind of taken it in my own direction, email marketing, and people started asking me to teach them what I was doing because my sales started going up right away. And I wasn't even planning to ever teach email, actually. I was teaching copywriting at the time, and people were like, hey, when's the email product coming out? And I didn't even know I was going to do an email product. But, that was market demand. And so I created this $800 product that people loved, and it made the people's money back right away. Because when you do email, and if you have an offer and a list and all that, you can make a lot of money very quickly. And I started realizing over a couple of years after that, I started realizing that I'm always updating this thing because I'm always learning new stuff. I'm constantly playing around with emails and subject lines and ways of making sales with emails and all this different stuff. And I was constantly having to update, and I thought, wait, why don't I just turn this into a newsletter so I can just keep going. And that way I don't have to keep updating this product. So what happened was that product ended up condensing down into a 100-page manual that I give away to people who subscribe to my paid newsletter now. And then that gives them the foundational evergreen stuff. And then I teach them month by month what I'm up to. And it's been working. And then since then, people just gravitate toward me for email, not so much copywriting anymore, which is fine with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. And I've read a lot of books on copywriting back when I was starting online marketing in 2007, 2008. And to be honest, it's not really the same thing. Yeah, the idea behind it is similar, but writing a good sales letter, let's say, even online, does not really compare to sending an email, which could also be like a sales email, but it's two completely different things.
They're very different. And the thing is that one thing I've realized over the years is if you do email right, you really don't even need a fancy sales letter. I mean, it helps. I mean, the better the sales letter, the more money you're going to make. There's no question there. But it's perfect if you don't want to screw around with the sales letter and you just mail people every day the right way. And I have a friend, for example, his name's Jim Yagi. He's a computer scientist. He likes to make software and stuff, apps and things for his list. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he'll just say, okay, I created this app. It's going to be $100. And he goes, I don't feel like writing this long, droning sales page for it. So he just emails his list about it a few times and sends them directly to a PayPal page. Is that ideal? No, but he still made money doing it. And that's my whole point. It's just what people want to do. Some people like slaving over a sales letter for 5 months and all that, and that's fine. I mean, you're going to make good money if you know what you're doing with that. And if you're selling to cold traffic, you have to. So it's not like emails are going to help you with cold traffic necessarily. But, that's not – I personally like to combine the two. And I find it to be a nice, powerful 1-2 punch.
Yeah, totally. And Ben, I would ask you for some advice here. So let's say someone has started a business, either a website or, well, let's say they do have an online presence. Should they start building their email list right away, or should they, spend a lot of time trying to perfect it and figure out the proper strategy, how to get subscribers, what to write to them? Or, as I mentioned, should they just start right away and then figure the rest?
Yeah, start building a list immediately because that list will become profitable for you eventually as soon as you learn how to do email correctly. So it's better to have it and have it in place so that when you do start emailing regularly, at least if you can mail once a week, if not, I prefer once a day, but if you don't have a list, knowing email won't do you any good. It's like, who are you going to send them to? So yeah, I'd say start building a list immediately, like starting today when you're listening to this.
That's great advice, and that's what I try to tell people. And sometimes people are really against it, and they just don't understand why would they ever build a list. And often people would say it costs money. If, let's say with MailChimp you could start for free, but if you want automation, it starts really cheap though. I think it's like $10 per month you could start with, and if you make one single sale that brings you $10 from that email list, right? You're making your money back, which is only $10, but still.
Yeah, well, and this brings up another point, though, and I know this is the extra paycheck show and all that, but here's the reality of this, and nobody wants to hear this, but I'm going to be the one to say it anyway because I'll take the slings and arrows. You can shoot the messenger. Somebody wants to shoot them. That's fine. If somebody can't afford, $20-$30 a month for this stuff, they should not be doing this. Get a job, a second job. Do what you have to do so that you can at least fund the beginning. It's very hard to start a business with zero money. I know that it's possible, and I know ways to do it very cheaply, actually. But the reality is, if it's that much of a stretch, if somebody can't afford $20 a month for an autoresponder, which is really all you need for them, I mean, technically, should they be? Maybe they're not cut out for this. Maybe they ought to get a job and get another job and wait till they have some cash flow to play with, because it's just a mindset that a lot of people have online that everything should be cheap and free. And it's true, things are less expensive. But if you want to scale something, for example, you're going to need some money. To start email, you don't need a lot of money. You can build a list without spending any money, actually. You can put up articles on sites like easyarticles.com. You can go hang out in forums where your market's at and answer people's questions and have a link to your site in the signature file. And that, you're not going to get a lot of leads like that, but you'll start getting good leads. And all you really need is that autoresponder service. But if like $10 a month or let's say it all costs $50 a month. Let's say a website and let's say it's all it is. If you can't afford that, should you be in business? It's the question. I mean, I don't know. My thought is, when I got started, I had less than that. I don't even know how the hell I got started, to be honest with you. But it never occurred to me to say I can't afford to do email marketing. That was like the only thing you could afford to do. So something to think about.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with you. And well, it's hard to say if I agree with you 100%, but I guess I do. The thing is, what happened when I started with complete zero money, because the things what led me to starting with online marketing. I spent a lot of money on different scams and promises that would make me rich. And at some point when I was kind of ready to give up, at the same time I still had that idea, well, it must be possible to make money online, but I'm not spending any more money on anything. And I started from with $0 investment at the beginning. Now when I look back, and when I recommend people to start a business or where I, try to help them out, I tell them, yes, you can do it for free, but I highly suggest having at least a few $100s for exactly that, for hosting. So you don't have like some free blog that looks like, it's a free blog. You actually have proper hosting, you have proper looking website, and it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. It could be $20 or $30 on a premium theme. It has to be, you need to have an autoresponder. A few things, as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be expensive either. You could start a website, a proper website, and an emailing list for under $100 probably. And the thing is that there are a lot of things that you could do for free or very cheap. Well, let's say like getting traffic. you don't need to pay for it. You could get it free by providing, as you said, valuable advice and great content. It will take more time than, let's say, paying for traffic, but it's totally doable. But yes, if you can't afford $20 a month on the autoresponder, you have to figure out the way that you could be able to afford it, because that's really crucial, and it's really the basics of of any business right now. That's, you can't really do much without it.
Well, and let's break this down even more financially, because now I sell a newsletter that's $97 a month, right? Which is not cheap. I mean, it's not supposed to be. Like, I don't sell it on price. But if you break it down, it comes down to $3.23 per day. Now, I can tell you that a bum rattling a cup of change on the corner is making $3.23 a day. Okay, so people have the money to do this stuff. My whole point is you have to prioritize it. So, let's say somebody says, I really don't have $10 a month, or let's say $20 a month. I would say, really, let's go through their daily budget. How much are they pissing away in coffee every day from Starbucks? You know what I mean? Little things like that. Now, I don't teach this I'm not a finance guy or anything like that. But to me, it comes down to priority. If somebody really wants to make this work, they will. Like, obviously, you really wanted to make it work. So you went from zero, you had nothing, and you made it work because you wanted it to. Anybody who would say they can't afford $20 a month just doesn't want it bad enough. That would be my opinion. Or if they really are destitute, this shouldn't be their thing. They should really just get a job, because you got to live. You got to pay bills, and you got to feed yourself and your family and all that. So, and you can always plan to do this stuff when you have some cash. But anyway, that's the way I look at it. It's still the cheapest business in the world to start. So, I mean, the worst case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally. But see, Ben, another thing that happened is that when I did start with a zero, I started a blog. I think it was on free WordPress, right?
Yeah.
And I started posting some content, and I consider myself lucky enough, because within the first week I made my first affiliate commission, which was $33. And that was this huge awakening moment for me, because I was like, hey, you can actually make money online. That's awesome. And I was super excited, but within a month or two, WordPress shut down my website, my free blog, because they don't like you monetizing the free blogs. They don't want you to put ads. They're really, really strict on the rules. And sometimes they shut down blogs which don't even seem to break any rules. I mean, at least not, monetizing or whatever. So, and usually you get the email and they're telling you, you cannot appeal our decision. This is final. You can't do your blog anymore. It's shut down for good. And you can't even get back up of your content. So this is something to really think about. Yes, you could even have your own website completely free, but someone else controls it 100%, and they could shut it down any moment, and they own all your content. Is it worth taking the risk? Or should you maybe spend $5-10 per month on hosting and have your own website which you control, right? It's little things like that make a huge difference.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll give you something. I'll give your listeners an idea for this. Let's say we're talking to people, to the person who just literally is just like, man, I want to do this. I have an idea. I know I can do this. I really am just strapped for money, and what do I do? And I guess I could get the $20 a month together, but I'd really rather eat. So let's say we're talking to that guy.
That's a harsh situation. That's really
it is.
Yeah, wow.
But there's hope for that person.
Yeah,
there really is. So here's what I'm doing. I've spent some time. I write books for Kindle and stuff, and I write them under not just my own name, but under various pen names. So I have, and I do pen names because I like to keep my name out of certain niches so that they don't get mixed up with different niches, and people are like, well, what are you really selling on? So anyway, in one of my niches, I sell to the dating niche, like guys who have trouble getting dates and that sort of thing. And one of the things I'm going to do actually next month is, because I don't feel like spending the time writing a daily email and all this other stuff. I don't know. I just want to just monetize Kindle. And this is what I'm going to say here is absolutely free to do. All it does is take time to write and get something up. You put a book up on Kindle, which is, that's a whole, just go to Kindle and they'll explain how to do that. Pick a market that's really, really rabid. In other words, there's a lot of people buying a lot of books in that market. So weight loss is a good one. Dating is a good one. Any kind of hot health problem, whatever it is that's a hot selling type of product. And you just go to Amazon, you'll see what's selling, what's not. Write a quick book on that. Doesn't have to be a huge book. Some of my books are 30 pages long, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be big. You just want to solve an urgent problem. So you put a book up on Kindle, and then I have a book up there now. So I'm going to go to easyarticles.com, and I'm going to write a daily article that just links right to my Amazon book listing. I don't have to pay for any hosting. I don't have to worry about anyone shutting me down because both those sites encourage you to sell. So, but that's one way to do it. Like if you're that strapped, at least you have time and you have energy and you can use those things to your advantage.
Yeah, this is great advice, Ben.
Well, I'm doing it myself, so it's not like it's just theory. Like, because I know people hear this stuff, yeah, it sounds good, but really, you can do it. If I can figure this out, anybody can. So
yeah,
and you don't have to have a website.
Yeah, that's true. In this case, you don't. But are you still using the actual Easy Articles website right now?
I do. Like, I don't actively post anything to it, but that's what I'm going to be doing in January. I'm going to see what happens for 30 days. I'm going to post an article every day, which is basically the same as I'd be writing an email, except to be a little bit more content to it. And I'm going to link directly to my Kindle book in the resource box. And so I'm going to see what happens. I mean, maybe I can't tell you what it would do for everybody, but I suspect I'll get some sales out of it. And I want to see how it works, because if it works the way I want it to work, I probably will set up more of a funnel for it and all that. But this is a good way to just get yourself writing and get yourself selling and learn, just doing something, because the only thing you can do wrong is not do anything. So you might as well do something, and that is one way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And this is something that I've done when I was starting, actually, was easing articles, and I was directing people, to sales or sales letters or whatever it is. So this worked quite well back when I did it. I stopped doing it because I just changed my, my strategies of marketing. But I still do from time to time post an article on Easy Articles or similar websites. And sometimes, if I do track it, I do see results and I see people clicking and sometimes buying. So it's still, a viable source of traffic and interest. A lot of people still visit those websites and article directories because this is where they get their information.
Absolutely. I mean, I have found that the traffic that comes, I can't speak for all the article sites, but I like easyarticles.com because they have standards and they have very specific, and those are there for the reader and for, they may seem like to me, they seem a little, they're not really copywriter friendly rules. And here's what I mean by that. If you know how to write ads and if you've been doing it long enough, you can probably say more in 200 words than most people say in 500 words. So they have this 400 word limit, which I understand why they have it. Because Google slapped all these article directors a few years ago and basically knocked all their rankings down because there's so much junk being thrown up. So I understand why they do it. But, it's like, but for most people aren't going to have this problem. Most people are just don't write that pithy, and that's fine. You don't have to be a great writer. But other than that, I just think they do. I think it's a viable way. They don't like you putting affiliate links, I don't think, last I checked. But that's why you can't. Right. That's why you want your own product that you link to, and you're good. And I've always found that the traffic is very high quality because they just spent time reading a whole article and clicking to your site. That's a good lead.
Yeah, that is true. That is totally true. And another thing I'd like to elaborate a little bit on what you said, because I know a lot of people listening to this podcast, especially those who are beginners or who just, as we call them, entrepreneurs, who haven't started anything, but they want to do it, or at least they think they want to. And they would listen to this, and this guy that, honestly does have a problem or trouble finding that $20 extra a month. He listened to your advice and he thought, wow, this is amazing, but I can't do that because I'm a pretty bad writer, and that is something that I keep telling people to not think about and to just practice, because English is my fourth language, I believe, third or fourth, I mix them up. Basically, French and English are my third and fourth language. And when I read through my articles, either on my blog or either on Easy Articles from back in 2007, 2008, and those articles are horrible. They're, it's not just the way I make my sentences, but it's just the information that I give. It's really, really basic. It's really simple. It's really rehashed, and not like simple, easy to read and easy to follow, but simple as in, basic and without any value. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I hear what you're saying here.
Yeah, and now when I look at my articles, like one of my top articles on the Extra Paycheck blog, which was written in 2015, and it's not much of an article, it's more of a guide on how to start a podcast. It's like a step-by-step instruction that I've created because a lot of people were asking me about it, and it's 7,000 words long. And it's super detailed, and I got so many compliments on how well it's written and how easy it is to follow. And see, this is what I'm telling people. Like, look, guys, most of you are from US and you only speak one language. That's your main language. You can't be worse than me in English. And if you think you are, and if people tell you are, that's only because you are not writing enough. Write what you, Ben, just said that you're planning to do, posting one article per day for a month. That's 30 articles, one per day. Guys, if you do that, you will see a huge improvement from your very first day to the last day of the month. You'll see it by yourself. That's it. All it takes. It takes a lot of time and practice, yes, but that's what you have to do.
It's night and day. If somebody writes for 30 days straight, and let's say you use easyarticles.com just as an example, and I think that their minimum word is 400 words. So they're 400 words. You don't have to write these long 7,000 word articles. It shouldn't even take you more than a half hour, really, or an hour at the most. Maybe at first it'll take you an hour or so, but the more you write, the faster it gets. And here's a tip that I always tell people. Don't focus on being a good writer. Just focus on being a good communicator. And what that means is write like you talk. Worst case, talk into your computer's recorder and then transcribe what you just said and smooth it out. That's really, like, if you really hate writing, that's how you do it. And I know people who write entire books on their commute to work by just talking into a recorder, and then they have that transcribed. They smooth it out into a book, and man, it's brilliant. It's a fast way to do it.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea, and I think it could work for some people. It's a really great idea, actually. All right, Ben. So what I wanted to ask you right now is maybe if you could give us some advice on how to build a good list online, build email list. Maybe you could talk about those lead magnets, as they call them, or maybe the content. I'm not sure what would be your most, interesting tips that you could share here on starting an email list.
Okay, well, there's actually lots and lots of ways you can do it. Now, are we talking about the free ways, and we're going to link the paid ways to the side for now, because that's like a whole other animal? You just want to talk about some free ways of doing it?
That's a good idea. Good question. Well, yeah, let's say that we already have a website and we are getting some traffic to that website, and this is where we want to start building. So in a sense, it is free because we already get the traffic on it.
Okay, so it starts with writing a daily email. Okay, even if you have zero traffic, it doesn't matter. You write the first email, and then you take that email and you turn it into an article for easyarticles.com. And which links back to your site. You then take that email and you get your phone out or your computer camera, whatever you have to do, and make a video of you basically reading the email. Okay, and put that on YouTube. You take that one and you put it on that same audio from the video, and you put it on iTunes. And then you take that same email, and now you can take it and put it on like sites like LinkedIn as an article. And in social media sites like that, you get a lot of mileage out of one email doing that. If you do that every day, we're talking 1 hour, 2 hours max of work to start with. Maybe when you get used to all the technology and all that. And now you're taking that one email and getting a lot of mileage out of it and turning it into ways to get traffic. You take that email and you put it into your autoresponder if you want to do that. Now, I like to write my emails fresh and daily, but let's say you just want to put it into an autoresponder, you could do that. So now you're getting all this stuff just from one email, just from one piece of content. And that's really not even the end of it. You can also go to like forums, for example, where they encourage user-generated content. Right? There's some forums and sites where they say, hey, put your articles up here. Put it up there. Make sure there's a link back to your site. Maybe you go to one of these articles or a blog or something like that, or a Facebook group, and let's say you see somebody who has a question or a problem that one of the emails that you wrote can help with. Well, take it and answer their question with your email. Just make it look like it's conversational. You could also technically take that to the publicity sites, even though those like cost money and stuff. So we'll stay away from that for now. And then you could even go farther if you want. You start collecting these emails. Let's say after a couple months of doing this, you have some pretty good emails about a particular topic. Assemble all those into a Kindle book and put that on Kindle with links back to your site in that book. You can also take these articles, if you really wanted to, and you could submit them to paper and ink newspapers and magazines if they fit what they're doing. So as you can see, you can get a lot of mileage out of one email a day. Just that's if I was starting from absolute scratch, that's what I would do. In fact, I do some of this stuff. I'm going to be doing more of it actually in 2016. And those would be good leads you'll get too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so it all comes back to basically creating good content and helping people solve problems.
It's really what it is. At the end of the day, you're solving a problem for someone. And if somebody has a problem they're willing to pay for, and you're doing all this work, you're going to win their trust. They're going to give you a shot. And that's where you get sales, and that's how it all starts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, Ben. So you're getting the traffic, and now I wanted to ask you about the actual emails that you send to people. Now, I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he usually talks about his jab, right hook technique. Basically, value, free value, and then you ask for the sale. Do you agree with that? Or, do you do that for your campaigns, or do you do it differently?
If you want to not make the money you should be making, follow his advice. That, to me, that I understand why people give that advice and all that. It seems to make sense, but in reality, you should be selling every day. Does that mean you have to pitch every day and be hard in their face every day? No, you have a conversation. You tell a story. You make it inherently valuable still, but you always ask for the sale every day. If you're going to consider yourself, if you're going to put it this way, to me, it is. If you have something to sell somebody, and let's say it's a product that we all know is good quality product, because nobody listening to this is going to have a crap product. Let's just assume that right now. You know you have a good product. You know it can help people. You know it can help someone's life, whether it be financially or health or whatever their problem is. There's so many different products. In my way of thinking, it's your moral and ethical duty to at least let them know every day that product exists. Does that mean you have to be in their face every day? No. But this idea of giving away free stuff without asking for anything is going to get you the worst quality list. You're going to get a lot of freebie seekers. You're going to get a lot of crud. You're going to create an entitlement in your list that you're not going to want to deal with. On the other hand, if you do it the way I'm suggesting, where you sell every day, and don't be shy about it either. Go ahead and give value in your emails. I'm not saying not to do that, but make sure that you put a link to your site, your product every day. You're going to make more money, for one thing. You're going to have a list that expects that knows that you're not a charity and that you're selling something for a living because you're a real business. Real businesses don't do what people on the internet do. You can't go to the store and they're not going to give you a bunch of free food at the grocery store for 5 days and then try to sell you something. It doesn't work that way. What they do is they give you a little sample. You got the chick there at the Costco with the little sample cookie or whatever, and it makes you more hungry for more. That's like the whole point of it. That's how it's done in real life. That's selling. So I would say Gary's completely wrong. I don't know the guy. I know that he would not agree with a lot of the stuff I teach from what people tell me anyway, so there's no point in hiding it. I can tell you I've done it both ways, and a lot of my students have done this both ways. In fact, practically all of them have, and they'll all tell you, my God, when I started just selling every day, I actually got sales. It's like, but here's another problem that I have with that, with this idea of just, okay, let's give them free, and then sell something. That's assuming everybody's reading all of your emails, which is not the case. Most people are not reading every single one of your emails. You have to be paranoid about this. They may only read one email from you their entire life because of spam filters, who knows what. That's fine. Do whatever you want. I'm just saying, in the real world where you're not making millions of dollars already and you don't have a world-recognized brand and all this stuff, you got to sell. You got to learn how to sell. And there's nothing wrong with selling. Selling is good. Selling is what drives the economy. It's not like you're not imposing on people by letting them know your product exists. I've done whole emails, which is 300, 400 words of just content. And then at the end, I say, hey, if you want more information about how to do this, check out my link. It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be this hard sell. I think that's where people go wrong, is they think they have to hard sell. I don't think you should. I think you should once in a while.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Ben, that's something that you mentioned that really applies to me a lot, and I've seen that, and it kind of, it applies to me, and I'm giving you an example. So I am offering this free free online marketing course, let's say. And I do notice that a lot of people are unhappy when I try to sell something to them. And because, as you said, they're freebie seekers, which is kind of not the audience that I'm trying to go for. And one of the worst things that ever happened to me was within my third or fourth email of this free course, and I haven't pitched anything at all. I actually had a person, or two people even, it happened twice, that asked me for a refund on the product, right?
Yeah.
Which I haven't pitched anything. So what I did, I was, as a nice person there, I wrote them an email, a reply that the full refund has been issued, and I'm sorry they didn't like the product, because I was like, what are they talking about? But yeah, what you just talked about, it's really, I guess it's really hard to explain and to talk about it, because some things work for some people, some don't. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a hard sell. And I think a lot of people do get it wrong because they think of it as a hard sell every email. Because what I used to do, I used to just offer free content before through my email list. Now what I do, I give a preview of the content, and then I tell people to go check out the rest on my website, which is also free. But once they're on my website, they start seeing offers, they scroll through the site, and eventually somebody buys. And I also do make ask for the sale from time to time, depending on what kind of email I'm sending, depending what's going on right now. But yeah, I guess this is a conversation that could go on for hours and hours, because there's so many different ways to go around it. And if you don't ask for the sale, you won't make money. That's, as simple as it gets in the end.
And but you also have to realize this. You have to, now, this is something that a lot of people don't think of. And I get it, because I used to be the exact same way. As marketers, we're very self-focused. We're trying to make money, right? But at the end of the day, it can't be about us. It has to be about the market we're trying to serve. Like that's really the mindset to have, is how can I help these guys with that problem and charge them for it, basically, and everybody wins, right? So there's people who, like, especially in the fitness market, I've noticed, because I've talked to a lot of these guys, they have this thing talking about goodwill emails. Like, they won't, one day a week, they won't sell anything. They're just going to send a goodwill email that has no link to buy in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, don't do that, because think about it. If you have a product that's going to help someone lose weight, and for example, or whatever it is, and you don't tell them about it, you're not doing them any favors. I'm not saying you can't give good information, but not letting them know it exists is kind of like going to the store. Let's say you have a very painful rash, right? Like, for whatever reason, you just have or let's say, I'll tell you what, let's say at night you have heartburn, and it's so bad that it wakes you up at midnight every night, and it's like, oh God, this hurts. And you say, I can't stand this anymore. I have to go to the store and get some, like, Pepto-Bismol or something. And you go to the store, and they say, you know what? We're having a goodwill day today. You can't buy anything. We're just going to educate you about heartburn. It's the same thing. It's like, no, give me the damn stuff. I need this, And at least to me, that's the same. Now, maybe it's not as dire for every market. I get that. But I'm just saying that's the idea. You should at least just let them it exists. You don't have to, like, put it in you don't have to push it or anything like that, but there's people who really need help. And if you're selling, for example, to teach people online marketing, I mean, you know as well as anyone all the crap out there. They need you. Like, if you have something that's really going to help them, they really need you to sell them something, and something that's going to make it easier for them to figure out, and so they can start benefiting. So anyway, so to me, it always goes back to the market. How can I serve them? And then by serving them, and I don't serve them by giving them free stuff, because free stuff is never valued. If they pay for it, they're far more likely to apply it and benefit from it. If I just gave email players away for free every month, I would not have I don't know how many tons and tons of testimonials from people saying how much money they made from it, because they wouldn't, and they just wouldn't use it. So that's something to think about too.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I've been hearing that a lot lately. And I do totally agree with you that when I, let's say, download an ebook for free, I am a lot less tempted to read it than an ebook that I actually paid for.
Yeah, because you paid for it. Like, you have an emotional investment. So.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that the free ebook is of lesser value. It could be a lot better than the paid one, but
it's perceived. So, it's like a perceived value thing. It's weird. When people opt into my list, I give them the first issue of Email Players as a PDF, not print, obviously, but as a PDF. I mean, it's free. It's really worth $97, but it's free. but it's not like the purpose of it is just to demonstrate what I have for them. And at the end, you can bet your butt that I have a link to the actual site to buy from. You know what I mean? And so, there's a time to give away free stuff. Absolutely. Like if you're just trying to demonstrate your knowledge and, a bribe to get them into your list, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I have a whole page on my site where it's just media interviews, kind of like what we're doing here, that are absolutely free. It's not because I'm trying to sell stuff. I'm actually just building my credibility. But when it comes to sending an email every day, I put a sales pitch in there all the time.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And it just reminded me of a time when I created like a video course on online marketing, and I was selling it for, I don't know how much, like $50 or something. And, people would buy. I wouldn't get many sales, but people would buy here and there, and I would get refunds from time to time. And at some point, I thought that I want to concentrate on something else and put that whole, project to the side for a time being. So all I did, I increased the price by like $200 or something, because I thought, well, nobody's gonna buy it at $250. Guess what? I got more sales, and I got, as you said, testimonials. I got people writing me and thanking me for the good content, and be like, oh, I learned so much, and I applied this to my website, and I doubled my sales and all the stuff. And I was like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Perceived value. And see, like, people, when they pay for it, they feel bad just leaving it in their inbox or leaving it on their front porch. In your case,
absolutely,
they actually do open it up and they take action and they apply what they learn into real life action. There you go.
And by doing that, you're attracting the people in your market who actually want to solve a problem. They aren't just like browsing. And there's a lot of people who never do anything, even if you hand them the actual solution. There are people plagued with heartburn who will never go to the store to get anything for it because they'd rather just sit there and pain and whine about it. So you get rid of those people by just selling, by just like you'll turn them off so they don't even want anything to do with you, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing. And I don't know who did that first, but I've read it somewhere a long time ago, actually. Somebody sent an email to their list and told people to unsubscribe. And I've tried that in the past as well, and it worked well for me. I got a lot of unsubscribers, well, relatively a lot. But basically, I sent out an email and I told people, look, I'm going to sell stuff. So, if you're not interested in the information I provide, and if you're like very unhappy with me selling you stuff from time to time, then you shouldn't be on my list. It's a waste of time for both of us. Please unsubscribe. And some people did, but I know that people who stayed on my list were the kind of people that I want on my list.
Absolutely. I take it even a step further. Just see what, if you've ever been to my site and like at any of the opt-ins, they can't even opt in unless they click a box acknowledging that they're going to get daily, and I quote this, daily promotional emails from Ben Settle. So there's no way they don't know coming in. And then when they opt in, they get that welcome email, right? And the welcome email says, okay, first of all, I email a lot, sometimes 2 or 3 times per day. If that's a problem, I understand it. Just go ahead and opt out anytime you want. So as long as you give them that expectation up front, you'll never have a problem. Well, I say never, but it'll cut down on a lot of that stuff. Just by bringing them in the right way, you've actually got them in a mindset where they're not only expecting sales pitches, but they may even want to check it out just because you're so blatantly honest with them.
Yeah, totally. And honesty helps a lot online, especially. I've noticed with a lot of people with my own websites, the more honest you get and the more transparent, the more people actually appreciate that.
That's because there's so little of it out there. It's a breath of fresh air,
I guess maybe. That's unfortunate, though.
Well, it's good for us, but probably not for...
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ben. So as we're finishing this episode, I'd like to ask you one final piece of advice, and that would be your most important piece of advice to either those who just started their entrepreneurial journey or those who want to start. What is that most important thing that you would suggest?
Well, I'll tell you. My idea here is a story about someone else, but it will make the point.
Sure.
It applies to email or whatever you're doing, but especially email, but anything really that you're indispensable at in your business that you have to do every day. So the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, okay, he was like one of the highest paid comedians in the world. He was like making almost $400 million a year back in the 90s at the peak of his success when he was doing the show Seinfeld and all that. Mm-hmm. Very successful guy by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, just really up there. And he was there, and Entrepreneur Magazine did some piece on him. They asked him, so like, what's the key to your success? And he goes, well, when I was just starting out, and this is back before anyone knew who he was or whatever, he said, okay, I'm going to write one joke per day. That's my goal. No matter what, I don't care what happens every day, 7 days a week, no excuses. I write one joke per day. It doesn't have to be a good joke. It could be a crappy joke. It doesn't really matter. He's just going to write one joke a day. And he got this big wall calendar. And every time he'd write a joke, he'd X out that day of the calendar. And the next day he'd write a joke and X out that day. And so all those X's kind of formed a chain in the calendar. And he says, as long as he never broke that chain, he knew he was going in the right direction. And that is not an uncommon phenomenon to just that consistency. People who come up every day and just do what needs to be done without excuses are going to succeed. You're going to succeed. I don't know when. Okay, I can't predict it, but you will if you just show up every day and you do what you need to do every day, whether it be write an email every day or an article every day or blog post every day, or shoot a video every day, whatever it is you're going to do to make your business work, do it every day without excuse and without fail, and you're going to be successful. It's just a matter of time. You will get there. You cannot not be successful doing that.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Ben. Consistency, yeah, this is huge in any business, especially online business. I think that's one of the most important traits, actually, of a successful entrepreneur. Consistency. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Ben. So where could people find out more about you and about your business if they would like to do that?
Probably you could just check out my own podcast, since this is a podcast. I figured people like listening to podcasts. So I have a podcast at bensettleshow.com. And when you opt in there, it's just like at my regular site, bensettle.com, where if you opt in there, I will send you the first issue of my email players newsletter. It's a PDF. It's a print newsletter, but I'll send you the PDF of the first issue. It's a very real $97 value. That's what people pay. There's 24 ways in there to make money with email, like starting right away. And I've had lots and lots of people tell me they've made thousands of dollars just following that free issue. And of course, we're over 100 episodes on our podcast now. So there's tons of that on there you can listen to for free. And we give periodic discounts on the products in our store and all that. But bensettleshow.com is where I would say to start with.
All right, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so people could check it out. bensettleshow.com, bensettle.com. And settle, it's SETTLE. For those who don't want to go to the show notes and want to type it in right away. So there you go, guys. Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated all your advice and sharing everything you've shared today.
Oh, you got it, man. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. As usual, I will be putting up show notes page at extrapodcast.com/46, where you will be able to find resources, links, and other things mentioned in today's episode. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show, leave a rating and a review, which will help me tremendously. Thank you so much once again, and I'll talk to you next Monday.